Hey, good morning and welcome to Morning Momentum, day number 4 in week 5. Hope you're enjoying your time watching each of these episodes. Please help us share, let people know about Morning Momentum. Today, I'm going to ask you a question. What will be written on your tombstone? George Washington was the man who established the American Republic. He led the Revolutionary Army against the British Empire, and he served as the first president of the United States. This is history. We know this. But in an era of brilliant men, Washington was not the deepest thinker. He never wrote a book or even a long essay, unlike men like George Mason, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, John Adams. But Washington incarnated the ideals of the Republic in his own person. Think about other great military commanders and revolutionary leaders before and after Washington. People like Caesar and Cromwell, Napoleon, even Lenin. They all seized power they had won and held it until death or military defeat. Washington abhorred the idea of kingship, even for himself. The writer Gary Wills called him a virtuoso of resignations. Joseph Ellis, in a book called Founding Brothers, states that Washington could be trusted with power precisely because he was so ready to give it up. He gave up power not once, but twice. At the end of the Revolutionary War, when he resigned his military commission and returned to Mount Vernon, and then again at the end of his second term as president when he refused entreaties to seek a third term. I think we probably should give the last word to Washington's great adversary, King George III. The king asked his American painter, Benjamin West, what Washington would do after winning independence. West replied to the king, "They say he will return to his farm." To which the king replied, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." Washington became known as the man who would not be king. So respected was he that after his death in 1799, the British Channel Fleet fired a 20-gun salute in memory of a valiant former enemy. Washington left a great legacy because he lived by some unwavering principles. Legacy. This is a word we hear a lot about, but I ask a question today. Have you truly considered yours? I've come this morning in our time together to ask a very poignant question that is very straightforward. What do you want written on your tombstone? What do you want to be remembered for when your life on this earth is over? It's ceased. It's no more. It's a question that should matter to you. It's something that should be important to you. A great legacy, in my opinion, requires at least 4 things. There's probably a list that could be a lot longer than that, but I broke it down to 4 things that I think a legacy requires. Number 1, purposeful living. Number 2, ambitious discipline. Number 3, dedicated focus. And number 4, core principles. And it will most certainly not happen by accident. If you want to be remembered for something great, begin living with an intentionality now. John Maxwell said, "Desire is the currency of life. It is what you have attained." If you're going to leave a legacy, you have to desire it and you got to work for it. It doesn't just happen. The enemy of your success, the enemy of my success, employs distractions at all times to kind of tame your passion. Little things are employed, hidden traps and snares. Why does he do this? Because great sins frighten where little snares entangle. It is easier to escape the huntsman's arrow than a crafty lure. William H. Henson tells why animal trainers carry a stool when they enter the cage of a lion. Here's what he said. They have their whips, of course, and their pistols are at their sides. But invariably, they also carry a stool. Henson says that the stool is the most important tool of the trainer. He holds the stool by the back and thrusts the legs towards the face of the wild beast. Those who know maintain that the animal tries to focus on all 4 legs at once. And in the attempt to focus on all 4, there's a kind of paralysis that overwhelms the animal. And it becomes tame, it becomes weak, it becomes disabled because its attention is fragmented. To leave a great legacy, you must be aware of paralysis caused by distractions. Anointing is not enough. Divine call will not keep you. Talent is insufficient. Even knowledge by itself is not capable of carrying you through to a great legacy. Samson was greatly anointed of God. We know this. King Saul was talented, stood head and shoulders above everybody else. Solomon was the wisest man of his times. All of them, every single one of them, were divinely called. But when you read the close accounts of their lives, you begin to understand that their lack of relationship with God brought about a spiritual demise. Distractions won the day. The words of David could be engraved on each of their tombstones. It's sad, but it's true. How are the mighty fallen? Finally, consider the Israelites in the wilderness. We've talked about some of them in our time together here in Morning Momentum, but let's think about them again. The elder generation didn't make it to the land of promise. Instead, strewn along the wilderness were the tombstones of a generation of promise. Tombstones in the wilderness. Why? Because the memory of deliverance wasn't enough to keep them destined for promise. Beware the paralysis of distractions by remembering the requirements for legacy. Let's go over those again. Number 1, purposeful living. Number 2, ambitious discipline. Number 3, dedicated focus. And number 4, core principles. Now here's a few points to ponder at the close of our time together this morning. Number 1, have I identified what I want my legacy to be? Number 2, what am I doing now to establish that legacy? Number 3, what are some distractions hindering my legacy? And number 4, what are my daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly habits that will help me meet my legacy requirements? All of us were called to make a difference, not only in the life that we're living, but in those that come after us. I challenge you today, think about your legacy. We'll see you tomorrow morning, right here on Morning Momentum.